Hello, everyone. This is Chris Rennirt from Space Jockey Reviews, here today with a very special guest, actress, director, and writer, Melissa Malan. How are you today, Melissa?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fine, too.
Good.
Melissa, when I say you're a special guest, I really mean it. I've seen and reviewed a number of your movies already, and it's really great to finally talk to you and do an interview. I'm
Well,
sure that you have lots of interesting things to say. So let's get right on into this interview. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Number one. Okay, Melissa, I'm going to start with a question that I ask everyone because it's always a great place to start. How did
Okay.
you get into acting?
I got into acting in college. I was a dancer growing up, so I was always on stage, but I hadn't ever explored any of the other arts. So I took an acting class in college. I needed an arts requirement, and I just fell in love with it. I still love theater. It's where I started as an actress and just be on stage and plays and all that stuff. I just love it. So there was no going back after my first class.
Okay. Uh, who are your influences or role models?
That's a great question. I really love Kate Blanchett. I think she can do anything. I think she's a complete chameleon as an artist. Who else do I love? Um, I That's a good question.
Good. That's my goal.
She's
Good
one that
questions.
always tugs me. I really admire her body of work. I think, like I said, she can just do anything, and I love that. I don't know. No other specific people are coming to mind, but I love people in their art that take risks and do things a little outside the norm and mess with those formulas of what's supposed to be done and not be done. And um, yeah, I don't know. I'll think about more
Okay.
specific people.
Okay. If you want to come back to that, we will. No problem. Most actors have childhood experiences that, in retrospect, made them almost fated to become an actor. Tell us about those childhood experiences for you.
Sure. I mean, I think for me, I was just always such a dreamer as a kid. I was kind of a loner, and I would always find little hidden uh, places to sit and read books all day and draw and that kind of thing. So I think that's a big thing for me overall. Was just I always loved going into other worlds and thinking about trying to see the world from other people's eyes, and then when I started dancing, that was huge. Just I fell in love with being on stage and telling these stories that weren't my own, and really throwing myself into that. So I think those are the big ones, and I always loved movies as a kid. I loved fantasy movies and great epic adventures. And I just kind of always knew I wanted to do that. I always wanted to be a storyteller. And I think that's why I'm so drawn to all the different outlets of film and stage, not just acting, because it's such a great thing to be a part of telling someone's story or opening someone's eyes to a new experience.
Yes. All right. Melissa, you were in a series of movies from Herbivore Productions called the Tortured Girl Trilogy. Those were A Loving Memory, Glass, and The Mockingbird. I saw all three of these movies, and I reviewed A Loving Memory and The Mockingbird for Space Jockey Reviews. For anyone who may not know, these are movies about women suffering from self-inflicted tortures, from memories, even with manifestations of possible supernatural influences, or so I think. My question is, what attracted you to these roles and made you decide they were right for you?
Sure. So, A Loving Memory was actually the first film I ever did as an actor. Um,
Oh,
yeah, before that, I was really just a stage actress. So, and of all places, I found that listing on Craigslist.
okay.
So it was just this little like needle in the haystack. And just for my first interaction with Rick, um, I just loved the story. I loved that this girl was so alone, and there's just so much going on in her head and in her life, and the outlet. And the audition was not like anything else I'd ever experienced. I actually just met with Rick and the cinematographer of the film, and we just like went through the script and talked about ideas and who this girl is and what these things mean, and so that's what attracted me to it. Is it was really kind of all of us in the trenches together, and it was true do-it-yourself independent filmmaking, and it was this great story. I just loved that she was narrating her own story, and there are just so many different places to go with that, and so that's really what attracted me to it. And once I worked with Rick, I was sold. There's nothing that he could write that I wouldn't want to be a part of. He's just the best.
Yes, I agree. He's great. Produces some really good stuff.
Yeah.
As for the Tortured Girl films, I'm going to start with A Loving Memory, getting a little more specific. It's one of my personal favorites, and it does focus a lot on your character and you as an actress. In this movie, you play a woman who is experiencing some serious mental torment related to a murder that she remembers. I love the way you took a seemingly normal character to a level of insanity that is really impressive, especially within a short film time frame. And the key scene in the movie where you have a knife is outstanding. It's almost like a dance, but that makes it all the more ironic and effective as a horror film. Mm-hmm. How did you prepare yourself for that role to make it so believable? Visually, it certainly does look believable to me.
Well, pretty cool. So I did a couple of things. We actually used a song in that scene, and the song that we used was "The End" by The Doors.
Oh.
It just seemed fitting, and it just seemed so fitting. So I drew some inspiration from that and from other songs that just kind of seemed to fit that kind of dark and moody and tortured atmosphere. So that was a big inspiration. But I practiced just the monologue that narrates the film. I practiced that by just saying those words out loud while I was going about my day-to-day activities in my apartment, and that really just helped me feel like they were my words instead of reading lines from the script. So that was huge, and I really felt connected to this girl. And the last thing I did is kind of funny, but the night before we were filming, I was fairly nervous about that scene because I knew it was going to be really intense, and I'd have to go to kind of a dark place, and in a way that I hadn't before as an actress. And it's kind of embarrassing now, but kind of fun. I picked up the butcher knife that I have in my kitchen, and I was walking around with it, just like kind of getting a feel for like the weight of the knife and that. And then I had this thought as I was prepping that I needed to feel so embarrassed, Chris. I needed to feel what it was like to stab something. And so I grabbed an orange out of the bowl of fruit that I had on my table, and I put it in the sink, and I just whipped it down. I just stabbed this orange over and over again to get that feeling of what it is to like plunge the knife in and then have to pull it out. And so that's how I prepared. So I beat up a piece of fruit and just really worked on finding her voice as myself. So.
Okay. Well, that's a much better story than I expected, really. That's good. On your website, melissamalan.com, you say that A Loving Memory was one of your favorite acting experiences. You said that it was, and I quote, true filmmaking at its best and most collaborative. Tell us more about that.
I think it goes back to what I said previously. It was do-it-yourself independent filmmaking. There were 4 of us. We filmed the whole thing in Rick's apartment. The idea for the script on Rick's part is just so unique, and I just love it. And But Rick Rick has a quality that a lot of filmmakers don't. He has no ego about what he's doing.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's so open to ideas and collaboration, and he really appreciates people around him. So it was just sort of like four of us in the trenches a little bit, creating this movie, and it was the first film I'd ever done. It was the first film that Rick had ever produced. So we were just kind of winging it and learning as we went and see what
Right.
happened. And that, I think that what came out is just great. And so that, yeah, it's just independent filmmaking at its best, I think. I think Rick is he's great at what he does, and he writes beautiful, tortured women. I
Yeah.
love bringing them to life.
Yeah. Well,
And ego's not a bad thing, by the way. I don't mean to insult filmmakers. We all
oh,
have egos. It's just hard. It's hard to let go of your work, and Rick's really able to do that and be open. So that made it really unique and amazing to be a part of.
well, not having the big ego and being open to so much collaboration and new ideas is a really great way to be more creative because a lot of great ideas come from other people you're working with, and that's excellent. In Glass, another tortured film,
Hmm.
tortured girl film, you play you play you play a character named Bless.
Yes.
Bless seems much like a demonic alter ego of the main character, at least in my interpretation.
Yeah.
Although you portrayed a different person in each of the movies, there seems to be a connection that all of your tortured girl characters have within the overall anthology. Do you agree? And if so, for some insight from the actress, what do you think that connection was?
Sure. I think there is a connection between the characters. Bless was the most, I think, that the furthest removed. Because she was sort of this alter ego and not not the physical person. She was sort of like the manifestation of this girl's torture, which was really fun as an actress to be. But I think the kind of the theme of these women is their depth. They are tortured. They're unhappy. They don't see themselves as having the worth that they want to see, and it's so there's that. When you're bringing that to life, I think you have to kind of not so much rely on your own experiences, but your pool of emotions and those feelings of vulnerability and those feelings of helplessness, and what's great about A Loving Memory particularly is that it was this chance to sort of play the what if game, and when we've all been unhappy and brokenhearted and alone, but she goes to a place that most people don't.
Yes,
People
yes,
don't
sure.
go there, so it's fun to sort of go outside of yourself for that. But I think that's true in all three of the films. Rebecca, who was the other actress in The Mockingbird, got to do that in that role, and she did so just so fantastically. She's such a talented actress, and so I think that's the connection. Just the depth of their sorrow and their torture is big and really ties these women together and their stories together.
Yes.
And the gray sweater, which is in all three films.
Oh, I didn't notice that. You're right. Okay.
That's our other connection.
That's that's a definite connection. Yes. Oh, okay. Well, in The Tale of the Heroine and the Cad,
Yeah.
you play the part of Tallulah, a mortal woman who gets some last-minute revenge on her ungrateful immortal husband. I must tell you that I really enjoyed seeing the Cad get what was coming to him there. How did you meet Claire Wasmond and begin working with Long Lost Pictures?
Sure. So I did a play when I first moved here, and through an actor in that play, I met Long Lost Pictures, the producers there, and did a video project with them, and it was tons of fun. And met Claire through Lex and Greg at Long Lost Pictures. and we've been kind of looking for a way to work together, and Claire wrote this great script and had me read for it, and the rest is history. It was
Wow.
so fun.
Yeah.
Such a fun film to make.
Yes, I interviewed Claire also earlier, and that was a great interview also. How did you enjoy the fantasy genre, working on the tale of the heroine and the cat?
I loved it. It's so fun, and the makeup process was so intense, and it was just getting to be physically transformed that way was something I'd never experienced before, and it was amazing what they did for the older scenes.
Yes.
But what I really loved about that script is that they painted this wonderful fantasy world, but it was a very real life, relatable issue of what happens when a marriage starts to lose its luster and people fall out of love and
Yes.
and nobody's really in the wrong. You could watch the film and just as easily be on the CAD side as to Lewis. So
Yes, I guess you could. Yes.
it's really, I think, open to your maybe personal experience and point of view, and so that's what I was really drawn to. She painted this really complex relationship in this really magical world, and I thought that was just great that she was able to
Yeah.
kind of blend those two things. And
Yeah, I think I was just more identifying with your character in that movie, so that was my perspective. But you're right, it could
yeah,
be seen from other perspectives, although some people might not want to admit it. But yes, it could be another way to identify.
yeah.
On IMDb, you are listed as co-director of Glass with Rick Gobble.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans for directing more films in the future, perhaps in directing one all on your own, or maybe you have already done that?
Absolutely. I haven't ever directed film on my own. I've directed theater, and I love it. I would love to do that here. I don't quite have the same understanding of being behind the camera as I do for directing stage, but I love working with actors, and I love helping other people find things in their work and that process. So I would love to do that, and I'm working very hard on honing the writing muscle so I can finish an idea and maybe get one into production. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, directing is great, and I think that anytime you have to put yourself in someone else's shoes, you learn more about your own craft. So I felt like as a dancer, I learned so much about it when I started teaching and having to break it down for people.
Yes.
And I feel the same way about acting. I think when I started directing and I had to really think about how to help someone in their role, it changed the way I looked at acting. And I try really hard to not be stubborn in my method for preparing for a role, and really be open to a director's notes and coaching. And it served me well. It's a great thing. Directors are
Yes.
saints. There's so much to think about.
Yes. Melissa, you are also listed on IMDb as a co-writer of The Mockingbird, also with Rick Gobble. The Mockingbird was a pretty deep psychological story with a lot of complexity. Where did you get some of your ideas as the co-writer for this story?
Really, it was all through Rick. We would just have. I was already living in LA, and Rick was in Chicago. So when I was there, I think maybe I was still there when it started. The process started, and then I moved. It's been so long. My my timeline is out of whack. But he had the initial idea, and we just kept sort of brainstorming back and forth. And to be honest and humble, I think that co-writer is gracious on Rick's part. I think it's really his baby, the screenplay, but the story was really fun to write. And then I sent him a poem, a Charles Bukowski poem called The Mockingbird, and I just told him, I said I read this poem and it reminded me a lot of our story, and that's where the name came from. So he loved the poem and he thought it was a great representation of the film. And so he was like, that's the name of the movie. The name of the movie is The Mockingbird. So
All right.
but he's just, I go back to that. He's just so great to work with because he is open to people's ideas and feedback and really listens to people. And that's why he does what he does so well.
Yes.
He's just great.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Herbivore Productions.
Yes, I am. I definitely am, for sure. Yeah, me. I have seen all of the films, and they all have that same really strong atmosphere for a horror film.
Yeah.
And as short films, they're very effective, even within that small amount of time. They're very, very effective. On your website, you have lots of different projects listed and several I'd like to talk about. First, I watched a trailer for a very interesting web series you're doing called Methyl Mania. In this, from the trailer with you in it, you appear to be a detective or perhaps a femme fatale of some type. You have a gun in there. You look pretty dangerous. Looks good, actually. Tell us about Methyl Mania and your character.
Sure. So it was that was the second season of the show. The first season's great, and it focuses on four friends who are all comic book writers and artists, and it's such a fun premise. But that scene in the trailer is actually, I think, the only scene I'm in the series. It's a really small part, but I love that I have this great shot of me with a gun. And I actually kind of play a bully, which was weird.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's a bully scene that we saw in that trailer. But the show's great, and I can't wait for the season to premiere. It's really talented cast and crew. They're just the best. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But it was fun to work on. It was fun to play with the gun.
Yes, it looks funny too. It looks like a comedy for sure. Yeah.
A little dark, but definitely comedy.
Yeah, sure. I love dark comedy. That's my favorite. Speaking of things I like, there's a very interesting short film on your website called Hello Future, produced by Long Lost Pictures, where you play the part of the obsolete android NYN01D Model 7000. That's quite a mouthful, but I wanted to make sure I got that correct. For a 3.5-minute film, it has a poignant emotional impact that really sticks with the viewer. I know it did with me. And you do an exceptional job of communicating a lot of emotion through your eyes and facial expressions, which really makes the film work for me. Of course, Space Jockey Reviews loves science fiction, so I have to know more about Melissa the Android and your experience with Hello Future.
Sure. So that's actually the project that I met Long Lost Pictures.
Oh.
So that was for a competition. That's the music in the piece is a Moby song, and it was a competition to produce this video, and they wanted to submit to it. Long Lost Pictures is also a team of science fiction and fantasy lovers. So robots seemed, I think, like the natural choice for them. And again, just kind of relying on those feelings of how you feel when you're rejected or you've been replaced in some way.
Yes.
In a relationship and a job. I mean, I can certainly relate to that being in LA on several levels, like walking into an audition and seeing girls that are younger or
yeah, right.
It's like, okay, great, I don't look like that, but fine. And so it's just those like insecurities that creep up,
right,
that we all have and we can all relate to, and that get the most logical and rational of us at times.
Right. What was interesting is, although it was science fiction and it was happening in the future with androids, obviously, it's a situation that certainly happens every day right now, as with women, android or not, and people in general. So people are just that easily discarded. They don't have to be androids.
Right.
But,
yeah.
So And I love these movies that deal with androids experiencing emotions and feelings seemingly like humans. It's
Yeah.
just a very uh, it's almost more tragic in a way that we create these things. But anyway, I could go on and on about that. Maybe
No,
some
I
other.
think you're right, and I think there's something to that because somewhere along the line we're taught as adults to hide those things, to not be sad, to not let things bother you, to somebody breaks your heart and oh just forget about them. They're too good
Yes.
anyway. But it hurts, and
Yes.
so somewhere along the line we're told not to let it hurt, but it does. And I think that's why
Yeah.
we play androids like, but it
Yeah.
so,
Right. If it's strong enough to hurt an android, imagine what it does to a human. Yes, it's
right,
crazy.
right.
In another video on your website, which is a comedy skit called The Real World of Warcraft,
Yeah.
you play the part of a woman who approaches some men at a table outside talking about meeting chicks, and one man is trying to convince the other that he's wasting his life away studying too much and not meeting enough women. I won't give it away, but you do walk up and interject some definite humor into the scene. It reminds me of a Saturday Night Live skit, and I've really laughed about it quite a few times since thinking about it. And Premature POV is another funny one I really enjoyed. My question is,
That is such a long
is
time ago. Oh my God.
well, I want that one was funny. It really was. I didn't know what to
Oh
expect,
God.
but it sure was funny.
I thought that one was buried out there.
Well, actually, sort of it is. You have to agree that you won't be offended by anything before you get into it. But it's funny. It is funny.
Oh Lord.
My question is not about that one, but my question is, how much of an interest do you have in doing comedy since you seem to be very good at it?
Oh, thank you. I
Yes.
love comedy. That so the World of Warcraft sketch that's up, that was for Second City, Hollywood. I mean, Second City, Chicago's huge. They have a location here in LA, and they used to produce a series called Seven Day Shorts. So they would give the premise out on Wednesday, and you had a week to make a movie, and that's what that was for. I love comedy, and I think people that are good at comedy can do anything because
Yes, I
it's
agree.
so difficult. The timing and the just kind of knowing when to hit that joke and how to hit that joke is great. And I'm actually rather new to it. I mean, as you know from the Tortured Girl series, I always play people that are very tortured or depressed or psycho or I don't know. I think it's typecasting.
Well, that's why it
It's
was
easy for me.
really refreshing, and it showed another side of your acting ability that you were able to come out and be so cheerful and tongue in
Yeah.
cheek and actually funny because again it reminded me of one of those uh, really spontaneous sort of over the top the not just Saturday Night Live style things
Yeah.
with
Yeah. Yep.
yeah with so I enjoyed that.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
The most recent post on your news and events page, is about a Los Angeles-based play reading scene. Okay, I'm going to actually start this over and edit that one out. Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Unless this laughing just makes it worth keeping in there.
Oh my God.
Okay, take two on question 16. No, okay. The most recent post on your news and events page is about a Los Angeles-based play reading series called Blossoming, presented by the Vagrancy Theater Company. Is this a stage play, and what role do you have in this production?
It was. So the Vagrancy is a great theater company, and I worked with one of the founders, a director named Caitlin Hart. I worked with her when I first moved here in a play, and she's a great director. And so they have their theater company, and then within that theater company, they also have a writing ensemble. So this was a presentation of all the scripts that their writing ensemble had been working on. I want to say for the last year. I may be exaggerating the time frame a little bit, but they've been working on these plays, and so it was just a presentation of that for audience feedback and to hear how it sounds and work out the kinks. So yeah, it was a staged reading, and the play was set in this sort of post-apocalyptic type town, and I play a girl who has an illness, but through that illness, she sort of has this power to grant wishes. And again, like just those real life themes were there. It was set in this wonderfully dark and magical world, but all the issues of like love and jealousy and wanting more out of life and wanting to kind of break out of your circumstance, they were all there. And everybody, all the characters in the play had such great needs and wants in life, and it was wonderful. And all the actors I worked with in that production were members of the Vagrancy, and they're phenomenal. They produce really great stuff. They had a play in the LA Fringe Festival called White Hot, I think it was called, and it just kept getting extended. So the company is just great. They just produce great work. So it was a really, really fun thing to be a part of.
All right, sounds interesting.
Yeah, it was great.
While we're on the subject of theater, which do you like most, film, acting, or theater, and why?
Ooh, good one. They're so very different, surprisingly, just the technique that it takes.
We can come back to that one.
It's so funny. I'm actually just realizing if you had asked me that a year ago, I would have without hesitation said theater, because I'm such a theater nerd and I love it, and it's where kind of my home is. But I think that the more I work in film and being around so many independent productions here in LA, I really enjoy the art of filmmaking and being a part of that, and just the subtlety that goes into it, and the focus it takes. I really, really enjoy it. I really love film.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. To all the listeners out there, make sure you look for my reviews of The Tale of the Heroine and the Cad, A Loving Memory, and The Mockingbird on Space Jockey Reviews. They are in the archives on the website, so do a quick search on SJR and you will find them. Also look for Melissa's videos and that we talked about today with this interview. I will include them all right here beneath the interview on Space Jockey Reviews. Continuing with the interview, Melissa, I notice in your resume that you are a choreographer also. Tell us about some of the work you've done in that area.
Sure. So yeah, as a dancer growing up, and then I taught for several years. So different projects. Most of what I've choreographed recently have been commercial projects. No like big commercials, but commercial type projects or stage productions. It's really fun. The last thing I did here was a hip hop choreography for a commercial, and that was really fun. I worked with the cheerleading squad, which is great. The girls were so athletic. I did some work for a web series last year called Hollywood Wasteland, and that was really fun. We choreographed a little cabaret number for one of the characters, and that was lots of fun thinking of that and teaching it. So it's kind of different things, but dance is completely like where my heart is. So anytime I get to indulge that, it's a great feeling. Yeah. I love making up dances. I dance around my apartment all the time. I'm always choreographing while I cook. So.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Oh. What is your favorite movie genre and why?
Ooh, I love horror films.
Okay, good.
I really do. I just love the effect they can have on people. Like we're intelligent, rational adults, but if you watch a horror film and then you hear a creak in the bathroom, you completely believe it's a monster.
Yes.
So I love the psychological effect that horror films have on people. I love thrillers and movies that just you get so invested in the characters and what they're doing, and I love that. I love holiday movies actually.
Oh, okay.
Holiday movies. But no, I think my favorite is horror. I love the effect it has on people, and I love.
What about holiday horror movies?
We should make one. I should call Rick right now.
Yes, you should. That would be a good one.
We'll get on that.
I recently reviewed one on my website called Thanksgiving. It was the only Thanksgiving horror movie I've ever
Yeah,
seen, and it was surprisingly better than you would think, actually.
I love the title.
Yeah.
Feeling.
What is the most challenging thing about being an actress?
I think for me personally, the challenging thing is to start fresh each time, not just be the same type of character in different situations, but really start as a blank canvas and build this character in their world and how they walk and how they talk and how they sit, and not get complacent. And especially if it's a contemporary piece, if it's just a romantic comedy or a modern day drama, it's easy to just kind of be yourself and be you in that situation. But it's much more interesting, I think, and much more suiting to the writers to really build that character and create it. And so that's the challenge for me. And what I always strive to do is really, really try to make each character unique and fitting to what the writer has provided. So, yeah, I think that's it. And then, just the focus it takes being on set too, just remembering, take after take, exactly what you did and how you stood and how you said the line, and if you moved your arm or if you had something in your left hand or right hand like that.
Yes.
All that focus it's a great challenge, but it's a challenge.
Yes.
So.
On the opposite side, what do you find most rewarding about being an actress? What is it that makes you wake up every morning and just feel blessed to be a part of it all?
Telling stories.
Mm.
I just think it's amazing to look outside yourself and experience someone else's world, and maybe change someone's mind, or someone watching it looks at a situation differently than they had before, thinks about something differently. I think it's so great. And I mean, what's better than getting to play make-believe for a job?
Yeah.
So that's what it is for me. Just bringing stories to life is so fun. And I feel so lucky that I get to do it.
Yes, I agree. That sounds like the perfect answer. Have you also done any modeling? Some of your photos certainly look like they could have come from a modeling portfolio. Absolutely beautiful photos.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have. I've done a little modeling here or there. For photographers and that kind of thing. Obviously, like brand modeling is what I meant. I didn't say that very eloquently. A photographer would take pictures of you. Yeah, a little modeling here or there, but most of it's mostly acting and dancing and
Okay.
the live performance stuff.
Okay. Melissa, have you ever been to Comic-Con or any type of horror or sci-fi convention? If not, have you ever thought about going to one to promote the Tortured Girl films, promote yourself, or perhaps to just dress up like your favorite character and do some cosplay?
Yeah, I would love that. I haven't. I've never been to any of the Comic-Cons or horror festivals, but I would love to. Yeah, I think that Comic-Con next year is a real possibility for me. It's just so fun, and it's so close in San Diego. So, yeah, I would love to go and be a part of that experience. So we'll see.
Okay, well.
Characters.
Okay, well. To all the listeners, you heard it first here on Space Jockey Reviews. Melissa Malan may be at the next Comic-Con. So keep us updated, and if you are there, we will keep up with that. Yes.
All right. Deal.
Speaking of cosplay, if you do go to a convention, to Comic-Con, what character will you choose to dress up as, or maybe that's still something you're thinking about?
Let's see. When I was a kid, I really loved the X-Men, and I loved Spider-Man.
All
So I
right.
think that I would probably be in that. Somebody, yeah, one of the X-Men maybe, or Spider-Man. Kind of a tomboy, so I would
Okay.
probably be Spider-Man or something.
All right. Okay. What else is currently on your resume that you'd like to tell us about?
Um, well, I'm doing a project right now with Claire and Long Lost Pictures. We're in production for a new fantasy web series. That's really fun. It's funny, and there's action and adventure, and it takes place here in modern day world and in this alternate universe. Uh, that's going to be great. I think that's something people should keep an eye on because it's
Yes.
just so fun. I'm so lucky. So we're shooting that now. That's in production. We're shooting the next couple of months, so that'll be great.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
Space Jockey Reviews will be keeping an eye out for it for sure. I'll make sure that happens. What is in the future for you? Perhaps you have some plans that would surprise us all.
Hmm. Maybe. I hope the future just brings more acting and writing. I'm working right now with the Jewish Big Brothers Big Sisters of Los Angeles and doing some teaching for them, working with teenagers and teaching them improv and directing. And I was with them a couple weeks ago, and we wrote scenes together and performed them, and that's really great. Working with kids is a big goal for me, and just giving them the outlet. I think having an artistic and creative outlet is so good for everyone to have.
Yes.
So I'm really excited about that program. I'm going to be teaching with them through April at their camp and working with these kids and giving them that outlet. So that's on the plate right now. That's the big future plan. And then we'll see what happens after that. See what happens
Okay.
next summer.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go? This is your opportunity to talk about anything I haven't asked, which is still a whole lot, I'm sure. Could be.
No, you covered a lot of it. Chris.
Okay, great.
No, I think you covered everything. I'm so appreciative for this support that Space Jockey Reviews gives to Herbivore Productions and Claire and Endless Pictures and me. It's been so great. I love it.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. You are very welcome. Now I have finally what I call 5 random questions designed to get to know you better personally. So here they are. If you could go anywhere in the world you've never been before, or anywhere in the universe, since this is Space Jockey Reviews, where would you go and why?
If I'm confined to the planet Earth, I would go to India.
Okay.
I would love to go to India and do a service trip there and work with an orphanage or kids in some way. If I'm not confined to the Earth, I think a trip to the moon might be in order.
Right.
Just like see it from that side of things.
Yes.
I just saw Gravity, and that was pretty.
Sure.
I think I need to do it.
That's a safe distance away from the Earth, I guess, for a first step. Yeah.
Right. It's the first one. Maybe right?
Yeah, who knows after that, but that's a good, safe, conservative choice, yes. That's actually the best answer I think I've gotten from this question so far, yes. That's what I would do. If you prepared your favorite meal for a special guest, what would be on the menu?
Seared scallops, because they're my favorites.
All right.
Seared scallops would be on the menu. I think some like roasted veggies, because I'm very focused on nutrition. And a really good glass of wine would be on the menu, and some type of cupcake, because I love cupcakes.
I do too,
I
absolutely.
think that would be it.
All right.
That might be my dinner tonight, now that I think about it. It's a
Wow.
really good idea.
Yeah, that once food gets on the mind, it's hard to shake it off. It happened to me yesterday. Someone in a conversation, someone just mentioned a certain restaurant, and before I knew it, by the end of the day, I was there.
Yep.
And by chance, that same person who mentioned it to me earlier was also there. I couldn't believe the coincidence. But anyway, if you could travel back in time and interview a famous person from the past, who would it be and why? This is always a tough question for everybody. So,
Yeah, that is a tough question. Who would I interview? I think I would love to interview. I think I would love to interview Rosa Parks.
okay, good
She was
choice.
such a badass,
Yes.
and I mean, just really, just with no intention of starting a movement, she started a movement because she just stood up for herself, and I think that's something that I think women still struggle with, and um, I think she's great, and it's just a simple thing.
Yes.
All she did was stand up for herself, and it started a movement, and I don't think we've come as far as we could have in the last 50 years, but we've come a long way. And she's up
Okay.
for herself, so I think that's who I talk to.
That is a good choice. Excellent. If you could play your favorite character in your favorite movie, what would be the movie and the character?
Ooh,
I love to ask those questions that make you go woo because that means it's a good question.
yeah, that's a good question. Um, wow. That's such a great question. Um, I I would love to play some kind of very like dark anti-hero superhero.
Okay.
I think that'd be really fun. Um, this is a really good question. You know what character I love though, and I would love to play in a film adaptation or on stage. I really love the character of Ophelia from Hamlet.
Okay.
So I would love to get my hands on that role. Um, yeah, I think you've stumped me a little bit. I'm gonna go with those two. I'm gonna go with superhero and Shakespeare.
Okay, that's good. Okay. And finally, what do you like to do most in your free time? What is your favorite free time activity?
Um, if I say watching Netflix, that's not.
Well,
You know what? I have to be honest. Dancing is my favorite thing to do in my free time.
okay.
I make sure I work it into the day every day that I can because it just really makes me happy.
Sure, it's great exercise. I think it's a full body exercise, and certainly I I don't dance often enough, but whenever I do, it makes me feel happy too. So
Yeah, yeah, it's very
yeah,
cathartic. So
yeah,
yeah, dancing and Netflix. Not Netflix is a really big one for me too.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. This is Space Jockey Reviews. We love movies here. Okay, listeners, be sure to check out Melissa Malan on her official website at melissamalan.com. Follow her on Twitter at Melissa Malan. And be sure to see her in the Tortured Girl trilogy and The Tale of the Heroine and the Cad. You can tune into Space Jockey Reviews for the latest about Melissa and everything she'll be doing in the future. We will certainly keep up with that. As the editor-in-chief, I will make sure of it. Melissa, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. It's been a great interview.
It's been great. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yes. Okay.